Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today recapping the Week 1 loss to the Green Bay Packers. All right, so didn't get a chance to record right after the game yesterday, but definitely want to make sure I covered this, which obviously I'll be doing every week, hopefully. So anyway, getting into the game, posted some of my notes, tweeted it out, put a little longer version on YouTube. But I rewatched the game today, throughout the day as well, just because I honestly wasn't able to fully lock in the first half because I got to the game late because I was out shopping. But so anyway. The game though kind of unfolded, kind of got out of hand towards the end, but like I said, I got a chance to rewatch everything today and really kind of take my notes and break it down because hopefully, if you've been listening to me for any length of time, you know some of the things I believe in. First of all, you can't just look at the score and know the game. Can't look at the stats and the numbers and know the game. You got to actually watch what happened. And to, especially if you're talking about your team, because that's the only way you can predict what happens later. It's not about what you do, it's how you do it. So, looking at this game, a number of things stood out to me. The first thing that I noticed right away is Darnell Wright is not playing with the level of technique that he's capable of. And this, well, obviously he's a Bears fan, a Bears player, and I'm a Bears fan, so people are going to go the bias route on that. But also, I was a big proponent of him in this draft, so people are going to go the bias route on that. That's fine. I've been doing this a long time as far as evaluating players and all that. So I stand on what I stand on. I know and I've seen what he's capable of doing as a tackle. And what I saw on the film from this past Sunday, that was not what he did in Tennessee, and that's not the level that I expect for him to play at. And that's not you're in the NFL and you can't get away with those types of things. No, I mean he wasn't playing the same way that he played. And you're going against Rashawn Gary, which is a huge task for your first ever NFL game. Yes, 100%. The adjustments, the nerves, all that is there. I don't know. I'm not with him, so I don't know what affected him on that level. But what I can tell you is that just pure technique wise, he was playing with very bad technique. And not to say that he was a technician at Tennessee, but he was better than what he was on Sunday. And so that could be for a number of reasons. But at the end of the day, and I don't typically like doing this, but I got to blame the coach on that. Because if you get a player that comes in with X amount of ability of a floor and they come out and look worse than that, that's a problem. And so I don't know why his technique looks so deconstructed, but at the end of the day, they say as a coach, it's what you either teach or what you tolerate. So if they've let him get lazy, or they haven't spent time, correcting those things, then you got to put that on the coach. Obviously, that's on him too, but anyway, without getting too technical, the man is not using his extension, his length at all, which is one of the strengths, especially that they look for in tackles. And so he's letting blockers get up into his chest, and especially a guy like Rashawn Gary is going to kill you. Then he's leaning into blocks. You never want to lean in. You want to use your extension. You don't want to hug people, despite what people think. You don't want to hug people. You don't want to chest bump with them. And this is some of the stuff that I was seeing at the Colts practice that I was telling you. So, and not just from him, but other linemen too. So anyway, that was concerning. But I do think he's a lot better than what he showed. Definitely a tough week 1 test, but he's got clean up technique. He has the ability. And there's some things that he did well. He actually looked a lot better in zone than I thought he would. But overall, I think that needs to be cleaned up. But I'm not on the team, so I don't know if it will get cleaned up. I mean, if you had all off season, he came out looking like this, then it might not be the type of staff that's going to hold him accountable to that. So I don't know, but that was concerning because he wasn't the worst culprit, but he was definitely part of the problem as far as the protection. So then that takes me to the interior. And while Whitehair wasn't as bad as the other two, he wasn't, fully great either. But Nate Davis was given nothing in the pass protection. Nate Davis getting beat like a drum. I believe that's his name. I hope I'm saying that right. But he was getting completely whooped by Wyatt and some of the other guys. And, as I said, I wasn't super hyped about the signing the way some people were acting like it. He came from the Titans, and we know that's not a pass team. So, but I'm not going to say act like I knew who he was and what he could do. But from what I saw in the practice, I knew he wasn't nothing special. I knew the team letting him walk. He wasn't that special. And in the run game, he might be a little bit of a plus. We'll have to see. Our run game is a little sporadic. And obviously Justin Fields running around is going to change the numbers, so you might think it better than it is. But we'll see if he's a plus. But in the pass game, he was definitely a liability. And that goes with Lucas Patrick, too. He was getting bull rushed like right up into Justin Fields' lap. But the biggest culprit that it always is with any offensive line is they were not switching well. And I think Darnell Wright, for the most part, did a good job with that, and he has the ability to do it. But Davis and Patrick were terrible at it. And so that's what happens when you get free rushers or quick pressure, because they're doing switches and we're not switching those blocks correctly like we're supposed to. So all that combined to obviously give Justin Fields a whole lot of pressure, and that really threw off his game. And I'll touch on Justin Fields a little later because I know everybody wants to talk about that. But there's other stuff too. So one thing I've noticed, which I might have said before, Komet has like no yak ability. And I don't mean none, but very low yak ability. That's just, I mean, it's not that we're getting the ball out to him anyway or designing things for him, but when he does get his chances, I've noticed over the years, he really is not going to turn it into much. Very much possession guy. So that'll be interesting, especially for people who want him to be the type of tight end they're talking about. I'm not sure how much he'll be that, more than kind of a safety blanket, play action type guy. And then the receivers were not blocking. First of all, Claypool's terrible. Claypool's terrible. I don't think we fumbled, but it was a screen where Mooney got blown up. I believe it was Mooney got lit up, and it was because of Claypool. Claypool didn't even try. First of all, Claypool is way bigger than most receivers. He didn't even try to block that man. He walked backwards and let him just blow that play up. That was terrible. And then early on, there's just a number of schemes that we try to do. A lot of counter pin and pull type situations that's real popular in spread offense these days. So whenever you see the formation get reduced down, a lot of times they like to have the wide receivers be the cracker and crack the end. Now, obviously, a lot of people will be like, why would you want a receiver to block a DN? Mainly because you don't need that block for that long. You just kind of need to get in the way for enough time for the lineman to pull around. But our receivers were getting manhandled and destroyed. And we use Komet a little bit. And then there's times where we'll have Herbert and we'll have Foreman out there. And so we'll use them kind of also in that chip game or that block game. And it just wasn't working well. Like Komet, I think, is serviceable, but the rest of everybody else wasn't that great. And so you got a guy like Tunya and then a guy like Mercedes Lewis, who I'm assuming it's still healthy. Because he is a blocking tight end. So you watch Green Bay on the other side use so many different personnel groupings to do really cool things out of a pistol with the H-backs to get on the edge, to play action, to get extra protection, do all types of stuff. And we just really didn't do any of that. And we sat here and tried to have our receivers be part, which they should be. They be part of the run game, and they were giving us absolutely nothing. We would have been better off with them just running off the corner or whoever. And that's the thing about Green Bay. Don't get it twisted. Jair Alexander loves to hit. He likes to hit. And Rasul Douglas is a really good tackler too. So this ain't no normal corners. And so it was really hard to try to get anything on the perimeter going with the way our receivers were blocking. And so that's something I feel like we could be better and more creative with the personnel groupings there. And then defensively, the D-line looked a lot more explosive than I thought. I mean, Ngakoue, we know what type of athlete he is, even though he's longer in the tooth. But we know what he can do. But the interior guys, Walker was okay, but the interior guys mainly, the rookies and the starters, they look just a lot more explosive. And this is where I was so impressed by the Packers. They adjusted in the second half and completely took advantage of it. Almost everything they were doing was taking advantage of the fact that our D-line is exploding uphill. Now look, when you are rebuilding a D-line, especially with young guys, it is the number one thing you want as a D-line coach and probably a defensive coordinator is to have your D-line explode upfield, because there's a lot of guys in the league that just like to sit there on blocks. And that honestly, that's why I saw them do a lot in the Colts practice. So I was surprised to see them really exploding and penetrating against the Packers. But then the Packers started playing off of that. A lot of the screen game, a lot of the whams, the counters, the perimeter plays where they allowed us to come upfield because they knew we were going to be out of position to redirect and make any other play. And so I was really impressed with a lot of the plays the Packers adjusted to take advantage of us being, so eager to come upfield. But even with that being said, and just pure pass rush situations, it's the same thing I've been talking about. We don't have any guys. I mean, Ngakoue is okay, but these guys don't have any. We have a lot more juice than I thought, but we don't have no pass rush juice. And I'm just using that kind of blanketly. But what I mean by that is that we don't have anybody that threatens the edge, and we don't have anybody that can beat a one-on-one block in the interior. All we got really is exploding off the ball and bull rushing, which is going to help in some games. But for the most part, Jordan Love had all day to throw. And to be honest, I don't really think Jordan Love was that great as people were trying to say. And you know me, I'm not like a Packers hater just to be a hater like a lot of people. That's my honest analysis, because he missed a good amount of throws and he was a little sporadic with his accuracy. And the reason he was able to do as much damage as he did is because he had all day. And even with all day, he made some bad throws. So I'm not saying he played bad, but I think people might be inflating that a little bit. And I don't necessarily say it was our secondary. Like I said, it was just no pass rush. Like when it turns to 707 pat and go, like any quarterback, any NFL quarterback worth their name would be able to get some big gains. It's no different than what happened in Seattle with Stafford. Now, obviously, Stafford is a vet and he's going to take advantage of that, but he had all day, because I was like, why did the Rams win? I had to go back and watch that game. Seattle just had no pass rush. And we know how good that secondary is, but they had no pass rush whatsoever. Stafford was able to be calm and stand there in the pocket. And I'm also veering off a little bit, but that's why it irks me when people talk about like a Daniel Jones or other quarterbacks that perform the way they did when they're just completely under siege. Like, dude, yeah, show me Justin Fields, show me Daniel Jones, show me any of these quarterbacks standing there with the type of time that Jordan Love had, and they still suck. Then we can have a conversation. So anyway, I think Jordan Love without Christian Watson is able to go out there and do that because he just had all day to do it. He had all day. We had really virtually no pass rush most of the game. The linebackers, I do think we are way more. We can cover a lot more ground. I'll say that's the way I'll put it. We can cover a lot more ground. I think teams last year and what I was watching when Tremaine Edmonds wasn't practicing is that teams could easily take advantage of that intermediate area right behind the linebackers because they knew we weren't getting depth and we were not getting out to the sidelines. So a lot of plays that you want to do horizontally, they're always there last year. This year is totally different. I like TJ Edwards and Edmonds can really cover ground. And they're going to be pluses in the run game, but honestly, if the D line, which we didn't see a ton because it wasn't a lot of straight up running, but I do think many times we did well against the run. So we'll see, but how that D line is. But if they're not able to get off a block, Edmonds now won't matter. So we'll see kind of how that works. But when you're talking about just sideline to sideline, yeah, we got a lot more ability to cover ground this year. And then Stevenson, I really love, man. I really love, not necessarily as like he's just a great player. I think he's definitely got a road ahead of him. But I love him schematically for what we're able to do because that to me was the biggest issue. Like Jalen Johnson to me is not a top flight corner. I told y'all that. He's a very good starter. But the issue becomes he's a non-factor when we haven't had a second corner like ever. And not ever, but really since Fuller, and he kind of fell off. But we haven't had a second corner, and so that side of the field is always going to be an easy target. It's always going to stretch the safety. But with Stevenson, I do believe that within a 15-yard radius, him and Jalen can go toe-to-toe on the island. And what that allows you to do is, as a safety, you don't always have to bail so much. You don't have to worry about bailing all the time because you know your corner is getting dotted up. Now, obviously, they're going to pick at him. They did, and they will continue to. But he's long and he's tough, and he's going to hit. So the thing is, he's going to battle with those receivers. Even the touchdown Dobbs caught, like, that was an amazing catch. It had to be because that was otherwise any normal play wasn't going to be complete. So I'm okay with him losing that rep because he's just going to get better. If he's a good player, he's going to get better as he sees more. But day one, he can match up with tall guys, whoever, and he could go to battle with them. And so that allows obviously Brisker to do what we want him to do, which is be in the box. And that allows Eddie Jackson to freelance a little more. And so I saw somebody was tweeting about like the Bears should be, press man too, with the type of corners we have. And yeah, the thing is though, we don't have a pass rush. So when you have two beat 'em up corners that obviously don't have excellent deep speed, because if they did, they wouldn't be beat 'em up corners. So when you have two beat 'em up corners and no pass rush, that could become a problem real quick. And Brisker, despite how much people love him, he's a certain type of safety. And not to say they can't do it, but you don't want him in the backfield. That's running backs. What do you whatever. You don't want him in the the deep field. You don't want him in in the half all game. Like you're losing value if he's not in the box. So that's why I think you'll continue to see off man press and stuff like that, which I think is fine, and I think we will be good. But yeah, it's that pass rush that just makes it tough. But that's the thing is that more than likely you're going to have to get to a point where you bring some type of pressure packages. Now you're taking Edmonds out of coverage. Now you're taking now to me, Kyler Gordon, the best thing he does is at nickel is blitz. I don't think he's a great nickel, and I don't think he was anything great this past Sunday. But I do think he is an explosive guy, and he's great as a blitzer. And he's not too bad at tackling. He's little, so he might get trucked by like a Josh Allen or something, but he's not too bad of a tackler. He's not scared, at least. So you probably gonna have to get into some pressure packages to supplement that eventually if you want to force the opponent's hand. And to be honest, Jordan Love was the perfect guy to do that against. Like, yeah, when you blitz Mahomes, stuff like that, yeah, there's going to be chances that you get cut up. But Jordan Love making his like true debut, man, that's one you especially as top receiver who's the deep threat. I would took some chances with the pressure. That's me personally. But it seems Eberflus is more of a 4 down, get after the quarterback type. We don't run a ton of stunts and all that. So that's cool. That's how I coach. But you got to know your personnel. I don't think we had the defense to be able to do that. But overall, I do think we look a lot firmer. I know that might be hard for some people to think after this game. We look a lot firmer as an overall unit. But yeah, without pressure, man, that's the thing I've been talking about for years. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's the truth. It's the truth. You watch any game around the league, teams that's not getting any pressure is more than likely not having a good game. All right, so Justin Fields. Let's get to the Justin Fields of it all. And we'll look more into the all 22 tomorrow when that comes out, and I get a chance to record that and everything. But I've done that for the last few years. Now, the only difference is we got DJ Moore. So people thought, we would be a different offense and blah, blah, blah. And for the most part, I understand the thought process that, hey, Luke Getsy really was handcuffed last year with this Lamar type offense we went to. So he could really open up this year. And I get that. But even with that thought process, that doesn't change the offensive line, especially without Tevin Jenkins. That hurts us in multiple spots. And then it doesn't change Justin Fields' journey so far. So having DJ Moore, I guess you could say you would expect some type of difference. And again, if he had time to throw and it still looked bad, I would understand. But when he's under siege the way he was, and he has no good habits formed from last year, I'm not shocked at what we saw. And then on top of that, that's what Justin Fields was doing last year when he had time to throw. So I'm still a Justin Fields fan, but as I've said before, and people wanted to go off against me when I say it, Justin Fields was not good at reading the field last year and reading defenses. And so you get the same thing this year. Now, again, I haven't seen the all 22, but I'm pretty sure that once I do, I'm going to see that there's some opportunities downfield that he didn't take advantage of. Now, do I think this group is, just absolutely destroying everybody? No, especially against the Green Bay Packers. I do think, obviously, DJ Moore is a true number one. I think Mooney absolutely can create opportunities for you. Claypool could be serviceable as a 3, but I really don't think he's played well. Now, y'all know how I feel about Claypool. So I'm not expecting them to just go out and terrorize anybody just based off their own skill set. So I'm sure that the windows aren't going to be wide open. But at the same time, that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities for Fields to take advantage of that he probably didn't, because there was a lot of checkdowns. So we'll see. We will see. We'll get to the film and look at it. But it feels a lot like last year. I talked about the O line and all that, and the Packers defense good. I told you in the season preview. I do think the Packers have a chance at the division because that defense is loaded with talent. So I wasn't shocked at all to see them do what they were able to do to us. I do think in the run game wise, me personally, I think we're best as a true gap scheme. And I think some of our best runs are when we true gap scheme. That means, single block, double team, single block, whatever, bring in a tight end, double across the board, whatever it is, that type, and just hit the gap and go. Like zone, everybody runs zone. I get it. It's cool to mix in. But I do think we do zone too much. And I've said this before, when our blockers aren't best at zone. And like I said, I was impressed with some of the things Darnell Wright was able to do with sealing people off, good angles in zone. But even that, I still think he'll be better at just gap blocking. And power and all that is cool with Tevin Jenkins and all that. I do think we probably could get into some of them, the pulling and kick out schemes and doing some of that downhill stuff. But for the most part, just make it simple. Just straight up gap schemes. Bring in that fullback too. Motion them, start out empty, motion them into the backfield, whatever. You could do those same schemes with Justin Fields. And I'm telling you, like, the running back runs it with explosion and hits the gap because that's what we need is first downs. And I'll be talking about this when I talk about week one in general. And, I talk about the stats that I keep and all that. But I always tell you, if you really want to be a true fan, the stats that matter are first down conversions. Or how many first downs you getting, what's third down conversion percentage, how many red zone attempts you got. Those are the stats that matter. Possession, time of possession. Those are the stats that matter. Obviously turnovers. But when we get downhill and we pick up positive yards, we don't have to always get in a position where it's third and long. And you're talking about a team that's already not effective passing the ball. Being in third and 16 doesn't help that. So we're trying to run these predictable screens, to be honest with you. We try to run these because every time it's second and long, that's when we run screens. Every time. And so we trying to run these screens and we lose more yards or we get somebody hit. Obviously, stupid penalties. Like getting behind the chains that's the sign of a bad offense, especially when you trying to help, develop your quarterback. And so none of those things help. Overall, I do believe Justin Fields completely has the ability to be, and to be honest, like I said last year, he was tougher in terms of, or more creative, I should say, as a runner than I thought. I knew he was fast. But this year, like watching him, like he's really a special runner. He really is. And when we get to the point where he only has to pull that out when he wants to, and that's not what he needs to do, this is going to be a dangerous team. So I do think he has that, but I just don't know that we'll get the opportunity for him to develop the way he needs to become that quarterback because of the roster we have right now. So I think that's it for the most part of what I've been looking at. And I'm sure I'll talk again before our next game, but that's kind of my initial thoughts. So go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.